Egypt is a pretty conservative place, maybe not just religiously conservative, but socially conservative as well. So maybe you could tell us about that as well and how you overcame that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I was saying like it wasn't happening a lot at the time, so you just didn't know what to expect. You didn't know how that's gonna happen. But luckily, also because of the international experiences I've had and the couple older friends that I had, I was able to like get some information and stuff. So in terms of, I think there's like two things to that. Like there's like the recruiting process, and then there's like, just as you said, getting over like the fear of like traveling abroad. And luckily for me, my family was always supportive of that. Like they knew this is something I wanted, and this is the next level for me. And they kind of saw that, so they did not hold me back at all. If anything, like they were always encouraging me and pushing me. And I mean, of course, there's like an element of fear to it,
Hmm.
because you just don't know, and you're sending your child all the way across the world for college. I mean, college is a big thing in itself. So
Yeah,
going
absolutely.
for college across the world, that's like, that's a lot. So, but again, like to me at that point, I was like, I'm very comfortable where I am. I have all of my friends, my family, my community. I already play at the highest level. So I also felt like, okay, but what's next? Like I'm 18 and I've already accomplished so much. Like there's no point, in staying if I really want to develop myself. So that kind of what pushed me. And then the recruiting process was kind of like all over the place, I would say.
Hmm.
I had coaches interested in me kind of like going into like that senior year and stuff. And as I said, like I was actively looking to, but it was also a matter of like finding the right fit at the right time with the right opportunity, which is hard to know when you are not there, because all you're doing is just like, through emails and video calls and stuff. So it was a lengthy process to say the least, from like transcripts to highlight tape to, everything. And I remember even arriving 3 weeks late because of like visa stuff and,
Oh,
getting
wow.
over that. Yeah, so it was definitely an exhaustive process, but it was worth it. Definitely worth it.
Yeah. So are you identifying schools and then reaching out, sending your highlight tape? Are they reaching out to you directly or to your coach or your club? Can you give us a little more detail into how that plays out?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a mix of both, I would say. I had schools reaching out to me that were interested in me, and then I also had my eyes on a couple schools that I was interested in. So you kind of like qualify that way. Like I was trying to see like who meets my requirements, who I'm like comfortable with, or like want to
What
join
were your
that program.
requirements? Just out of curiosity, what were your
Just
requirements?
like school record, like program record, how long that program has been around, the coach. I mean, when you talk with players and when you talk with the coach, you're able to tell, you know, are you going to get along with that coach or not, which is a huge thing. The school record, your major, like what I want to study and how good that major is at that school. Destination was also like important. I knew I wanted to be on the East Coast. So mainly like, New York or like Boston or these kind of states. So a couple
Is
of
that to be
factors like
closer to
that.
home?
I think a little bit, yes, but it's also
Okay.
like more familiar. Like I was familiar with New York, and even though I ended up going to a school in upstate New York, which was six
Yeah,
hours
yeah.
from the city, so that's like a different story. But yeah, just like a couple of things, and to be honest, at the end of the day, it was still like a shot in the dark. You didn't know 100% what you were signing up for.
For sure, for sure. And so you end up at Roberts Wesleyan, which is a Division two school, like you said, in upstate New York. Why did you choose that? Was there a few other schools you were deciding between? And ultimately, why did you pick Roberts Wesleyan?
Yeah, there was, and it kind of came down to like really like a few schools. And then I talked with the coach at Roberts, and he um, showed a huge interest in signing me, and he did not have a point guard at the time, and all of that. And it was kind of those things too that like he would take initiative in like getting my paperwork done, and like no, like let's figure this out, let's get this done, let's do that, let's do this. So I kind of just felt comfortable in that regard. And I had no idea where Rochester is. When I tell you, I did not even know it existed. I did not
Yeah.
know it was on the map. But it's just kind of like these things that I talked to assistant coaches. I talked to a couple players from the team. And I was like, like, let's do this. Like, I had thought way too long about it to the point where I was like, I will never make a decision that way. So you just have to take the leap and kind of see where you end up. And that's what I did. And I arrived in September of 2016 and played all 4 years there.
So let's get into the basketball. But first, I mean, how was the culture shock of coming from Cairo? I know you've been around the world, so you've seen some different places. But what was it like, being in Rochester, dealing with that weather and just the major change in culture?
Yeah, glad you asked because it wasn't easy. So the weather, just like, yeah, the lifestyle was very different, for sure. Not so much basketball wise, like it's actually the other things that kind of took me time to adjust to, including like the weather. Like it's very, very cold in upstate New York, nothing like Cairo. So it took, I mean, I still people said like, oh, you will adjust like after a few months. No, I never adjusted. I would still hate the cold. So the weather was like a big thing for sure. um Kind of, like it was also, you're coming in as a freshman, you have older girls on the team, how to navigate that and how to kind of like earn your spot in a different way. And don't get me wrong, like I always worked hard here and stuff, but also like I had reached a very comfortable level of like knowing, oh, like I'm gonna walk into any team and like, get X amount of it. Like I know that, but like when you reach college, everyone starts from scratch. You really have to work for your spot. You really have to earn your spot. And playing with players from with different ages too is something that you have to get used to. There are
Mhm.
like upperclassmen and there's lowerclassmen, all of that. Also navigating academics, like, figuring out my classes and like kind of doing both. Like your day would start really early for like a morning lift or a morning workout, and then you would like shower, go straight to class, and then like quickly get something to eat and then get back to workout number two. So it's just a very different lifestyle, and you kind of at that point have to set your priorities, to kind of know like what are you trying to get out of here. Are you here for the experience? Are you here to really make the most out of it? Are you here to party? You know what I mean? So it kind
Mhm.
of makes you mature really fast in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, you have no choice. I think at that point you're by yourself in a different country, thousands of miles away from home, new culture, all that stuff. So I'm sure you had to grow up really fast. So as far as the basketball, so we talked about the culture shock in being in New York and all that stuff, in upstate New York, just to make sure it's very different from New York City, as I hope people know. But as far as the basketball went, the style, the organization, the way it was played at the college level, did you experience a culture shock there as well?
I mean, I wouldn't call it a complete culture shock. Was it a different level of play? Yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
Um, but I also like expected that. You just did not know exactly what it looked like. But definitely, like the game is faster, the game is stronger, it's more physical. Some of the rules are also different from like FIBA rules. Like college
Yeah,
rules are
yeah.
different. So that's like was something. Like I had a ton of travels called on me that first year because I was just used to the Euro stip. So like a couple adjustments like that. But definitely like the game, as I said, like because you're also in college now, so the whole level is just like, you know, like way higher, than like high school or like what you're used to. So yeah, you just have to be physical, you have to be quicker, you have to be better, you have to always improve. You really can't stay where you are. Like every day you go to practice to get better and to work on your weaknesses, because otherwise you're just gonna, you're not gonna survive.
Hmm. Yeah, and I went through your stats and your game log. You've had some big games over that 4 year stretch. What was the point where you feel again like this is where I belong, and I finally, maybe a point where you felt comfortable with the level, with the speed, with the physicality, and all that as well.
Yeah, I think halfway through freshman year, like kind of took me that first like 2 months of games to it was like very up and down, till I kind of got the hang of it and was able to, like you said, like okay, breathe and be like, okay, I know how to do this. I know what's going around here. Like I belong, like you say. So I think like the first like semester or so is kind of when I like experienced it all. So like going into that second semester or that like second half of the season was when I was like, okay, like I know, what to do here. I know how to get things done. So it definitely took a couple months to adjust to everything, the lifestyle, the level of play, my schedule, all of that. But I think by the end, or by like, yeah, by the second half of the season, I was like pretty comfortable at that point.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure that was difficult because you had the extra layer of getting used to a new place, a new country, and a new school, all that stuff as well. So, credit to you for that. So, what was the highlight of your college career? Is it possible to pick one or two?
Um, Highlight. So I was actually gonna transfer after my first year because I was like, I like it, but I'm not sure if this is where I want to spend my next 3 years for multiple reasons. But mainly because of like Rochester is very different from Cairo. Cairo is a huge city. It's loud. It's busy. There's a ton of people. It's warm. It's nice. Type of nice. But it's also very quiet. It's very cold. It's just very different from what I was used to, and that kind of was hard to adjust to, even with the basketball and even with academics. That was like, I don't know if I want to do this for the next or 3 years or so. But kind of, and that will like kind of what drew me back was the people. Like Roberts is not the biggest school. It's like kind of like a small school in Rochester. But the people that I met that first year and that helped me get through the transition, the friendships I made, the professors I met, all of that was kind of like, wow, like I really did not like this place at first, but
Sure.
now, with all the relationships I have and with all the connections I made, this place feels cozy and it feels nice, and people are supporting me in ways that I, just did not think of. So it kind of like made me think more about that aspect of the experience and not just the outside factors that you would think of, I
Sure.
would say. And kind of like, here we are 7 years later. These are like some of my best friends now that I made in college, and some of the best people I ever like interacted with.